object of today's lesson is to learn the basics of Python. So we start out with simple variables. X equals 3, and to see the value that we just stored, print x. And you see that we have the answer 3. Now, variables can be other data types. For example, we can say u is equal to Monday. Print u. Monday is an example of a string, just a bunch of characters put together. So variables can also hold strings, words, decimals. W equals 3.243, and you could say y is equal to w to the third power. Right. Print y, and there's your answer there. You can treat it like a calculator, and it will do all the basic calculations. All right, so that's the beginning of Python. If you want to follow along, you can go to this website, and you can use Python from within your web browser. But I would just pay attention to the lecture, and maybe another time you can try this out, on your own. All right, so the first thing we want to learn about is a for loop. So let's write, so I'm going to do a comment here. Comments are ignored when you start with the number sign. So let's write a loop to add up the first 100 numbers. All right, so how would we do this in Python? So let's start with a variable. Let's call x equals 0. And we're going to simply keep on adding to x. So for I in range 100. So what this gives us is the numbers from 0 to 99, which is 100 numbers. So I will range from 0 to 99. And but we want to add up the first 100 numbers. So perhaps we should look at the first 100 numbers this way, and here I would range from 0 to 100. It's always one less than this number here. Okay, so we're in a for loop, so we have to hit the tab key. Python is really picky about indenting. So because we're inside a for loop, anything that you want to be done within the for loop has to be indented, all at the same level. Okay, so x equals x plus I. What this will do is, for each value of I, it will add it to x, and x will be a running sum of all the values I that you're adding. We're going to start I at 0, so that first value of I won't do much, but the other ones from 1 to 100 will add. All right, let's press enter again so that we know we're done with this for loop. And Now we can print out the value of x, 50/50. So if you'd like to see it being added as it goes along, we could do something like this. So x equals 0 for I in range 101. Hit the tab key. X equals x plus I. Hit the tab key again so that we're at the same level as the line above. Print x. Now one more enter sign will enter, one more return key will exit us from the for loop, and it should execute. So scrolling back up, you see the first is 0, 0 plus 0, 0 plus 1, 1 plus 2, plus 3, and here's a running sum. And that's it. Okay. Now, suppose we only wanted to add up the first 100 even numbers. So let's add up first 100 even numbers. So we need to be a little bit more careful if we're going to do this. We need to use some more statements, and one of them is the if-else. So let's take a look at the if-else. So x equals 1. I just assigned x to be 1. So if x is greater than 0.5, you need to use, notice again, the semicolon. I didn't mention it before, but most of these statements in Python need this semicolon here when they're the beginning of an indentation block. So if x is greater than 0.5, hit the tab key. This must be indented. Print the word no. Else, colon, print the word yes. All right, and x is greater than 0.5. That's true, so it prints the word no. So there's something called a Boolean value. For example, this might look a little strange, but let's say we let u equals parentheses if x is greater than x is greater than 0.5. Print u, and we see u has the value of true because this is a true statement. So here u is a third type of variable called a Boolean variable. And Boolean could be either true or false. So for example, print x equals to 2. Is x equal to 2? Is x equal to 3? Well, we know the answer is false. And once again, we're looking at a Boolean variable. See, u is equal to x double equals 3. Is x equal to 3? So this is asking, is x equal to 3? Well, we know the answer is false. So false becomes the value of the right-hand side, and it's assigned to the variable u. Print u, and we get false. Okay, so what we'd like to do is write a loop to add up the first 100 even numbers. So if we're going to look at the first 100 even numbers, so we would go from 2 until 200. So our for loop will range from 0 to 201, and that'll make sure that we get all the numbers we need from 0 to 200. Okay, so once again, let x equal 0 for I in range 201. So let's colon. So let's consider all the numbers from 0 to 200. That's what this for loop statement says. Okay, hit the enter key and tab, so we have to indent. Okay, now we only want to add if I is an even number, right? We don't want to add any of the odd numbers. So there's a nice way to check if a number is even or odd, and that's by dividing by 2 and checking the remainder. So if I remainder divided by 2, and look at the remainder. So this is called the remainder or modulo operator. So maybe I'll put a parentheses around there just so it's a little easier to read. So what this does is it divides I by 2 and just remembers the remainder, either 0 or 1. So if the remainder is 0, it means I is an even number, and that's what we want. So if I remainder modulo 2 is equal to 0, so if I is an even number, colon, so this is going to be the beginning of another indentation block. Now we have to double indent because we're in a nested indentation block. So if I is an even number, let's add it to x. So x equals x plus I. We don't need an else here because, and the reason we don't is because if it's odd, we just do nothing. We don't have to add to it. All right, so let's run this loop, and then we'll print out the value of x. And there we go. That's the sum of the first 200 even numbers. Okay. Arrays, lists of numbers. So there are many ways to start an array in Python. One way we could do it is, we could say y is equal to square bracket 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So now we have a list. Actually, Python doesn't really call them arrays. It calls them lists. So this is a list. So a list with 5 numbers. We can print it out. And there's our list. We can add up these numbers. Print the sum of y, 25. We can find the biggest number here. Print the max of y, It's 9. Print the min of y. 1. Alright, so let's try something out. So let's store 100 random integers in a list and add them up. So that's what we'd like to try to figure out. How would we do this? So random numbers cannot just be simply generated. They're actually a bit tricky. And in order to generate them, you need to use a special library called the random library. So from random, import all. So that star, shift 8 means all. From random, import all. Alright, now we've just loaded the random number library. So we can say some neat things like this. Rand int from 1 to 3. And it gives us a random integer from 1 to 3. If you hit the up arrow, in many systems, you can keep on generating the same command. Notice we're getting a random number from 1 to 3. Okay, so we want a random int from 1 to 100. Well, just do something like this. Okay. So let's see. So we want to store 100 random numbers with each random number from 1 to 100 in a list, and then we want to add them up. Okay, so let's make a new list. X is equal to empty brackets. So this tells us that X is now a list. If you want to do something 100 times, easiest method is to use a for loop. So for I in range 100. So this is going to do something 100 times, and technically I will range from 0 to 99, but we actually won't use I. Hit the tab key to indent. Well, actually, maybe we will use I. So x of I, so the ith element of x is equal to rand int from 1 to 100. So give me a random number from 1 to 100, and let's store it in the list which is called X. Alright, so it didn't like this very much. As you can see, we got what's called a traceback error. It says the index error, list assignment index out of range. So what this means is we've tried to assign values to our array without allocating space, essentially. Let me give you a quick example. Let's say x is equal to 1, 2, 3, 7. So what is the 0th element of this array? 1, this list. What is the first element of this list? 2. What is the third element of this list? 7. Which is really the 4th number, but we start counting at 0. But let's try the fourth. Okay, we got the same error. Can we simply say x of 4 is equal to 2? Is equal to, let's say, 9? No, we can't. So we have x. How do we add numbers to our list? Well, there are a few ways you can do that in Python. One is we can say x dot append the number 9. And we have to just add numbers to the list carefully. The reason for this is because space has to be allocated in the computer, and if you're not careful, you could very easily use up all your computer memory if you write careless computer code. Okay, so if we would like to add 100 numbers to our list, we just have to use it carefully with the append. So let's try it again. All right, so x is equal to a blank list for I in range 100. Let's find a variable, come up with a variable just to store one number at a time. Y equals rand int from 1 to 100. Alright, so let y for the moment just represent a random number from 1 to 100. Hit the tab key again. Now we want to store y in our list x. So x.append y. So let's add y to the list. Okay. And you know what? Why don't we print a running total? See what's happening. Let's look at our list as it's being built. So let's print x. All right, and let's hit another one more enter key. Will take us out of the for loop indentation block, and it will run. So we couldn't really see it so well, but let me try to show you. So print x. So here is our 100 random numbers. Okay, and if we want to add them up, let's print the sum of x. And the sum of our random numbers is 4698. Okay, so we've seen arrays. There's some neat things you could do with arrays. So for example, say x is 1, 2, 3, and y is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What happens if you add the two arrays like this? X plus y. It simply puts the two arrays together. Can you do x minus y? Not so well. Doesn't work so well. However, there is a very important data structure that's used in mathematics in almost every field of mathematics, and that's called the set. So let x equal the set of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we print x, you see we get, it's sort of like a list, but with a curly brackets. Now, take a look at the difference between a set and a list. So here is a list. Notice that we have duplicate of the 4s. Right, so let's print x. 1, 2, 3, 4. In fact, let's call little xx. All right, so we have little x is going to represent the list containing these 6 numbers. And as I said before, notice that the 4 is duplicated. Okay. Now let x equal the set consisting of the numbers in the list x. Now let's print big capital X. You see, it does not duplicate the 4. A set never duplicates numbers or anything. Otherwise, it's pretty much like a list, but sets also don't really have much of an order to them. It doesn't really make sense to say the first number in the set or the second number in the set. They're not ordered. Okay, so let y equal the set 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so let's print y. So we have our set y. Now you can put these two sets together. You can say z is equal to x period union parentheses y. And this is the union like you learned in probability and statistics. It just puts the two sets together and it does not duplicate any of the elements. You can do intersection. W equals x intersection y. That's what's common to both x and y. And there's even a subtraction. You could say t is equal to x minus y. What this does is it gives you the elements in x that are not in y. It's called the set difference. Okay. So we've learned about arrays, which are lists in Python, if, else, and for loops. Okay, the next video will show some more advanced topics like dictionaries and list comprehensions.